All right, G. Welcome to Basketball Heads Live. I'm your host, Glenn Poole Harding. And tonight, we have a very special guest. This basketball head is a Staten Island legend. Now, when we talking about greatness on Staten Island, he is the personification of that. His team, St. Peter's, won the 1983 city championship. You know, they beat New York City legend and NBA host Kenny Smith and his Archbishop Molloy team in a stunning game. We're going to talk about that. He also put up 1,400 points during his high school career and won the Jaques Award. That's being the best Staten Island player on the island. And not only that, he was first team All-City. You know, with Kenny Smith, Mark Jackson, Old Polonies, you do your homework when it comes to this man. So, without further ado, we're going to introduce Michigan State and Fordham University great, my guy, Dr. Greg Pedro. Would you consider yourself a doctor?
Hey, yeah, well,
all right. All right.
Some credentials, but yes, hey, Glenn, so good to be back.
Yes.
Thanks for inviting me, and it's a pleasure to be on tonight.
Yeah, man. It's through all the technical difficulties, right? That we had, we back at it again, man. So I just want to thank you for coming back and appreciate you, brother, for taking your time. For those people that saw on Instagram, please log on to my YouTube channel. You know what it is. Hit the link in the bio. It's going to take you to New York City Basketball Network. I'm Basketball Heads on Instagram. For the YouTube, we changing the brand up, baby, because New York City basketball needs this. So come on over to YouTube and check us out. All right. We're going to jump right into this, brother. Who introduced you to the game? For those who don't know.
Oh, my father, introduced me to the game early. My father played. He's in the Wagner College Hall of Fame, Basketball Hall of Fame for scoring over 1,000 points, and he's the one that back in the '60s when NYU was of national fame, they were ranked 4th in the country, and Hank Pedro was the one who hit the winning basket to upset NYU. So that was one of Wagner College's highlights, in the history of that school. But yeah, my dad could get it done, man. He played for the Harlem Wizards back in the '60s. He played in the Eastern Pro League. Had a tryout in the NBA, and so he could do it. Oscar Robertson was his favorite player. So it's, the apple doesn't fall that far from the tree.
I see, man. Like, that's legendary, right? Within itself. Your dad kind of set the pace for you to go on to do great things. So, salute to your dad, man. Salute to your dad.
Yes, sure. Sir. Yes, sir. Love to pops.
Yes. Sir. So, what part of Long Staten Island would you consider yourself, part of? Like, where did you grow up? What part of Staten Island?
Well, historically, Staten Island, had one of the first communities where, the free blacks, free slave trade. We actually established the south part of Staten Island, which would be Annandale, or if you know where the outer bridge is on that end of Staten Island, was for in the early 1800s, mid 1800s, they had their own trade. They used to they made a trade out of fishing in the bay out there. They did oyster fishing, and so they own houses and things like that. So I come from I'm like the third generation from Staten Island. So my grandparents grew up on Staten Island, and their parents grew up on Staten Island. So we're like some of the original Staten Islanders. When people talk about Black folk growing up on Staten Island, we're the originals. So there's a lot of history. So that's Sandy Ground, for anybody who wants to look that up. The history of Sandy Ground. It's a historical society now. And things have changed a lot, through land development and things like that. There was a big fire back in the 1950s where a lot of the properties actually burnt down. And they built up as best they could. Yeah, I know. But I don't know all the history when it comes to that fire. But
Hey, yo, G, I'm telling you, for those who know me and been watching the show, you already know I'm a conspiracy theorist to the fifth power. And I always say conspiracy, correct? Because they made that up after they killed our president, John F. Kennedy. May he rest in peace.
Right.
But when you mentioned that, and I'm sitting here saying to myself, wow, that little history that you gave me of Staten Island, I never knew.
Right. There's a lot of
now I'm going to go and do my own research and do my own due diligence because I think that's important.
Yeah, you and me both, brother. Because when I grew up, I was enjoying the fruits of the path that a lot of people laid in front of me. So I didn't really appreciate it as much as I was growing up, playing baseball and playing basketball, and having a great childhood, and somewhat taking it for granted at the time. So now that I'm older, I'm reaching out to some of the elders that are still around and piecing some things together. But yeah, there's a rich history there on Staten Island, whether you're talking sports or you're talking about some of the first blacks that own homes, their own homes on Staten Island, and to be independent. So I come from a lot of that, and all of that. I thank God, because that made it easier for me to play basketball and have all the love and support, rather than having to struggle, to try to scrape and to make things happen. A lot of things, fortunately, fell in my lap, including just being accepted, white and black, because my family was accepted and integrated very well with all races and all people. So that's the kind of person that I grew up to be.
Man, that's saying a lot. And look, I've been out in Staten Island a few times this year and hung out with both blacks and whites, and got invited by my friends that's out there. Salute to my guy, my brother, Anthony Graziano, and all these people out there, my guy D-Mel, and all the others out there, man, just made me feel at home,
Right,
and
right.
Seeing where it came from, because what we know about it when we was younger, it was just a lot of disdain, and we didn't know too much about it because we were in the city. So to see where it's at right now, and how people show each other love and support each other, it just says a lot, man, about how far we have came as a people.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that, Glenn, because that's been my experience my whole life. I never really had any problem, and I've been surrounded by good people of all colors on Staten Island, especially.
Nah, this is awesome, man. This is awesome. I like to get into things of that nature. So at what age did you fall in love with the game? Because I know you had a background in baseball as well, right?
Well, yeah, baseball came a little more natural to me, as we talked last time, just because it's easier to play baseball when you're younger. It's harder to hit. They didn't lower the baskets down to 6 feet when we were younger.
Right.
And so it was easy to play baseball. I played a lot of baseball up until my junior year in high school, with some aspirations maybe to play college ball and go on and maybe play pro ball. I really loved the game, but basketball stole the thunder, man. The basketball just was a faster pace and more like a immediate gratification. Unfortunately, I played on some winning teams where I tasted what victory was like on the basketball court, and I wanted to get better. So I started dedicating a lot more time to, becoming a better basketball player. I just fell in love with the game, probably legitimately at the age of 13 or 14, really going after it, working on moves, watching players like Bernard King, Michael Ray Richardson, some of the greats that played in New York. Started playing in the city. It was getting my butt beat by some of the real, players. They're thorough in the city. You know what I'm saying? So I was playing up at the Rucker League and learning, taking my lumps up there, really. But taking that back to Staten Island and just, never getting cocky, but staying humble and trying to get better as a basketball player every time I got on the court.
Listen, when as you can see behind me, I have Rolando Blackman on right now. So those people that saw the Instagram page, please come to YouTube and check out my guy Greg Pedro, because you got a lot to learn about New York City basketball. When you think you find out just a little bit more. Again, when I was getting those players like that, and the Jerry Ice Reynolds, and then when I would go out to the island, people would be like, yo, you got to get Greg Pedro. You got to get Greg Pedro. My guy Richie is like, yo, have you got Greg Pedro up there yet? I was like, nah, I don't know if I can. I don't have his number. I don't know anybody that know him. He said, I got his number. I'm going to get you in contact with him. And it's been a while, like, a couple of years. I've been searching for your number, somebody who knew you. So to have you on right now and then be able to call you up and be like, yo, G, what's up? What's going on? This is a good thing, man. This is awesome, man. This is awesome.
No, yes. I appreciate it's a two-way street, man. I appreciate just, being able to rap about it. I was just thinking tonight, we talking about that city championship against Kenny Smith when we won that kind of Cinderella story. Next year is going to be 40 years. And that's amazing. Ooh. That's 4 decades have gone by.
Yeah, and you still look good, brother. You still look like, you can still get out there and hoop it up a little bit, man. Like,
hey, I still play. I'm still doing what I can. Like you asked, when did I fall in love? And when you really fall in love with something, if it's really love, it keeps going. And so I still get up. I get up at 4:00 in the morning, bro, and we play from 5 to 7 over at the gym. We play full court. It's a mixture of guys, from age 20 to age 60 for the guys who've stayed in shape, and we get it on. We got about 40 guys that text at night, and as long as we get 10, then we play every day, and it's a privilege. One, it's a privilege that if you're still healthy enough to get up and down the court. 2, if you got enough guys who want to play, and then if you have a really good facility that you can play. So it's just like 15 minutes from my house here in Central Jersey. And yeah, man, and it does you good. It's the camaraderie with the guys, and it's the physical exercise. And even though, my game has slowed up a little bit, it's changed, but I still enjoy the game,
Yo, brother, can you hold up your hands real quick? Just hold up one of your hands, fam. It's crazy, yo. Well, how old were you when you first was, could palm the ball?
I probably, I know it was in high school. I don't know the exact age, but yeah, about probably 15, 16. I grew early. It looked like I might, be a skyscraper, because I was about 6'4", 6'3", 6'4" in 8th grade, but then, I leveled out from there.
Yeah. It happens to all of us, man. So do you remember that first game you played under the refs?
Yes, I do. Yeah. And well, in 6th grade, when I really was introduced to the game, I really didn't know the game. I really didn't have a game. I had a uniform, but I didn't have a game. And and I remember a funny story, because I always like to tell the story about, how it's not, your skill level when you start, but it's when you finish, So, I started at 6th grade, and I had to start somewhere. And I got in the game, and I was nervous. And this was at the CYO Center of Staten Island in Port Richmond. And I got in the game, one of my first games, and I looked at the clock, and it wasn't a digital clock, it was one of those manual clocks with the hand that goes around. And I looked at the clock real quick, and I thought that it was coming down to the end of the quarter. And so I screamed to the guy who got the rebound to give me the ball. And so he throws me the ball, and I just heaved it from 3/4 court. and it went in. So I thought I hit a buzzer shot, and then I never heard the buzzer. I looked at the clock, and there was like 50 seconds left, to the quarter. and my coach pulled me out of the game because he was like, "Listen, we're gonna have to take some baby steps here, But it's a funny story because I really didn't know the game. I didn't, I didn't have enough basketball behind me at that time. But, it was a slow rise. And until I got to high school, I had, by the time I got to high school, I had a couple of years under, some good coaching and some good summer league games. We played citywide basketball against some pretty good talent. And, and then you go from there, you go from there.
But it was like, no! Oh, it went in. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And then I guess he tried to have to explain to you what was going on.
Yeah, to break it. We wait till there's really no time on the clock before we take a shot like that.
Wow. For those of you who came in the room, hold on for a sec. My bad, G. Come to the YouTube page. Come to the YouTube channel. All right? I appreciate you guys for tapping in. We on YouTube tonight. All right? From here on. So please tap in tonight. We're going to be here for a minute. Yeah, look, you knew you was on the right path. Even though you did something wrong, the ball went in. And it showed how your future is going to pan out later on because that wasn't be the only basket you scored. Right? In such an amazing fashion.
Yeah. That was my initiation into basketball right there.
Wow. That's crazy. Look, when we talk about, competitive spirit and having that fire in us, a lot of kids don't know where it really comes from, knowing they probably got it from someone in their family, right? And it was probably passed down to them. Where did you get your competitive spirit from?
I think growing up, listen, I have to give baseball a lot of credit. And the fact that my father was available to coach, and he put me in, at that time on Staten Island, Mid-Island Little League. They had won the Little League World Series. They won the whole ball of wax in baseball. The 12-year-olds, they won in 1969. So when I was 5 and 6 years old and I was in love with the New York Mets, I was a Met fan and my whole family. And when I started playing baseball, that was one of the better leagues to get into. And they had some really great dedicated coaches that taught you the fundamentals in baseball, and they taught you how to compete in baseball. So I think a lot of those early seeds that I had gotten in baseball from some of those great men who were coaching, because everything was surreal. I remember, like putting the uniform on. I loved that. And, getting ready and getting prepared before a game. I loved that. And, and a lot of the players were very competitive and talented. And I loved that. So I think early on that, was the impetus to love to wear a uniform, the privilege to make a team, the privilege to play to be a teammate. And to look forward to games, you know what I mean? Because that's what I fell in love with in basketball. It's the same exact thing. When I started playing, I loved the fact that I made the team. It was a privilege to make the team. It was a privilege to get a uniform. It was a privilege to learn the fundamentals. It was a privilege to play in a team setting. And then I love to compete, So that started at an early age with baseball first, and then just carried over into basketball, when I was starting to become more interested in basketball.
Wow. What position you played in baseball?
I was shortstop mostly, and a pitcher. Yeah, and I could hit.
Hey, listen, first of all, you're a shortstop saying you got some skills, right? I always said that the shortstop and that third base line, right in between there, that's where a lot of the action is.
Yeah, I love shortstop. And then I did a little bit of catching. I wouldn't say that was my natural position, but when you grew up pitching and played on as many teams as I a lot of times I would pitch for multiple teams without the coaches really knowing how many pitches I threw for the week. Now coaches are up to date. They do the pitch count. They make sure you don't hurt your shoulder and that kind of thing. But I sort of pitched myself out at that time. So there was always a spot for me because I could hit, but I sort of lost that range on my ability to throw because I pitched too much, at a young age.
Yeah. Think about it, they didn't have all of the counts like, back in the day like they do now, to preserve pitches. So a lot of guys would go out there with Tommy John, they had the Tommy John arm and then had to retire earlier, couldn't play. I played first base because my friend got hit in the head with a bat that was in front of me, who was the catcher. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, and we used to go out there and play stickball too. Throw that little tennis ball as hard as you can up against the wall, try to strike your friends out.
Right.
So that didn't help either.
Too much, man. Too much. So when we talk about the best player in the neighborhood, who was that coming up in Staten Island when you was younger?
Glenn, there was a lot of good players. Coming up, we talked about Kenny Page. He played for McKee High School. McKee High School was always had talented players. But the interesting thing is I fell in love with basketball to the point where it was a personal thing for me. Like it was just me going out to the park and just working on my jump shot, working on my ball handling. I played so much baseball at that time when I started that I really didn't know the history of who was good and who wasn't good. Because I really wasn't paying attention, So I would say most of my high school years, I just showed up to play. You know what I mean? I really didn't get caught up in the press of any other players, nor did I get caught up in my own press coverage. I mean, I knew my name was in the paper and I liked it, but I didn't get caught up in it because every time I would go play in the record league, I would get my butt handed to me. So I was like, well, this is Staten Island, so don't get a big head, But, I mean, there's some good players on Staten Island.
Yeah, listen, what Kenny Page did at the time was remarkable, and to make it to the Big Ten at such a big stage at that time. And I guess when you had your chance, you was like, well, Kenny Page went to the Big Ten. I could go to the Big Ten as well.
Right.
The two of the biggest players. And, then we had Kyle McElharney as well, who was also on the show. And a few more that I probably, didn't mention. So definitely Kenny Page. That was the first person in Staten Island I kind of looked up when I first started the show and was, just trying to build up the resume and trying to help expose those players that people never heard of.
Right.
So Kenny Page definitely was that player, So
no doubt. He could pour it in.
Yeah. Is he still alive or he passed away?
Yeah, he's still alive. I don't. I haven't really heard too much about that's a good question. I'm gonna catch up with a few guys because I know some of the McKee guys who played with him. I still keep in touch with. Some of them have done very well in business and they live on Staten Island still. Lenny Palmer is one of the guys that I know that I played golf with a couple of times. He played at Cornell, but he did play at McKee. He's a little younger than Kenny Page.
Okay.
But Kenny Page was not too long ago inducted into the Staten Island Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame as well. So I think he's still alive, but I'm not sure if he's on Staten Island.
Okay. If you could track him down for me, I appreciate it. And you're also been on it as well, right? To Staten Island Hall of Fame, correct?
Right. Well, yeah. It's a pleasant surprise. I got voted in recently, so I'll be inducted this November. The ceremony is this year with a cousin of mine who's from Sandy Ground, also who has passed away. He's older than he's a generation earlier than I am. He played in the Negro baseball league, and he was Hank Aaron's roommate. As
Wow.
coming up, Julie Bowers, and so it's 7 of us, and it's an honor to get in there with my cousin this year.
Wow. You come from a family of like, this is like royalty. Like when we talk about sports royalty, and as far as being a African American family on Staten Island who done very well for themselves, man. Man, salute, man. Because we need more of that. We need more of our kids who have heroes that they can reach out to and touch and say, you know what, man, I could do it this way. I could become a dentist, right? Because a lot of
Oh,
us who play this sport, everybody want to go to the league. Right? Everybody not going to the league. Let me tell y'all something. I don't care how good you are, you could be the best of the best. Trust me, some New York City legends never made it to the league. They got there, they couldn't
right,
stick.
right,
So if you just happy to play the
yeah,
game and get yourself in a position where you could be a professional in anything, Greg Pedro, somebody
right,
you could definitely look to, man. So that's important.
yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that. Because I mean, listen, I never tell somebody to chase their dreams. Because you can't make it without having a dream, without having a vision, and without shooting for the stars. And I say, do that. You must do that. You must pursue that. But the thing about it is, you don't have to do either or. You can try to do both. So keep your grades up, be a good person. Because if somebody can't vouch for you to say you're a good person, and you would be an asset to their program, if you can't have 3 or 4 other people say that about you, you need to check yourself. Because I mean, there's some exceptions to the rule, right? If you happen to be 7 foot and you're jumping out the gym, but you still have to be a decent person, because people don't want a headache. They don't want to have to babysit somebody. So it really comes down to building your character, doing well in school, feed your mind, and of course work on your conditioning, work on your craft, your game. But get it all, because that window of opportunity starts to close up quickly.
Right.
After you get into your early 20s.
Yeah, very true, very true.
Yeah.
How big is CYO on Staten Island? Because I think it's losing its weight out here in the city. Is CYO still a big thing on Staten Island to this day?
I mean, I think it's big enough. I mean, I think if you're comparing errors, it's definitely lost a little juice because of all the different sports now that play all year round. I mean, if you're a football player, it's hard to play multiple sports, but it was easier to do back in the 70s and 80s. If you're a baseball player, you can play all year round, and now they have travel ball, where back in the 70s and 80s that you really didn't have it like that. You played baseball from maybe April to July, and that was it. So and then some of the schools have closed, unfortunately, and so that has to have had a pretty good effect on CYO basketball. But from what I see at St. Peter's, my old high school, they still have a nice program. They're still attracting some talented players, and they have at least assimilated even more so into the being able to play in the city now. They have now incorporated in their schedule the Brooklyn teams and the Bronx and the Queens teams, instead of just competing against each other on Staten Island back, which we did more of back when I played.
Yeah, yeah. I saw them play against St. Joseph by the Sea, and it was a very, very good game. And just to see them compete, that was the first time I saw them play live. Heard about them. Listen, people in the stands didn't know their history. So I'm in the stands telling people, like, y'all know that's the only city champion school on Staten Island. And they was like, really? I was like, yeah, varsity basketball, Nova team has won. And you hear people around me like, for real? Some people knew, said, oh yeah, that's right, 83, they won it. But a lot of people didn't know.
Right. Yeah, and there's been some good teams that have come up. I mean, I know they had a good chance to probably break or join the ranks about, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years ago. They had a couple of blue chip players. One who's going to play on at Columbia, 6'7" cat, Liam Murphy, and another guy who went on, but he went to a prep school. He left after his junior year at St. Peter's, and then he went on to play at Harvard. He's there now. But Chris Ledlam, he's a nice player. He's playing at Harvard now. I think he's a junior. But they had a nice team, and they were beating everybody, and they were beating a lot of city teams. But when they lost Chris Ledlam, that was kind of a letdown, and so they never really had the chance to to be that strong team that had a chance to maybe take it all away.
Yeah, times is definitely changing. You're talking about prep school, and I'm not knocking anybody who go to prep school, because my senior year I went to prep school, but I went there so I could get my grades intact to go play Division I basketball, and then after I left after my senior year. But we talking about the tide is changing right now, because girl basketball is ahead of the guys right now. So I'm gonna give you an example. You got your ball too. That's dope. That's dope. So you got your ball right there. There you go. There you go. So
keep it live.
That's right. That's right. Paris Clark. She goes to Long Island Lutheran. She was New York State Miss Basketball. She's going to Arizona. And then Toby Awaba, I still mess his name up, but he goes to Cardinal Hayes. He's Mr. Basketball. He still haven't found the school yet. Not saying he's not eligible because he has 100 average and a great student, right? But I think he's waiting for a better offer. So the word on the street is he may be going to prep school.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Back in the days, not even that far back, but really back in the days, if you was Mr. Basketball, you had offers lined up. Whereas the girls, look on Staten Island. Y'all have, Staten Island has the second leading scorer in the nation, Nicole Emilios. She averaged 40 points a game, 38, 40 points a game.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Nobody's doing that on the boys'
She
side.
got off.
Oh, yeah. She's already signed to Georgia Tech already. And she has another year.
Okay. Right.
And she's already surpassed 2,000
Right.
points.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So
yeah, the whole different now, because back when we were coming up, if you were smashing them, everybody wanted you to sign, and they were hoping you would sign early before your senior year.
She's smashing them. They lost in the city championship. She played for Susie E. Wagner against the powerhouse South Shore, which have loads of talent, but she was definitely the best player on the floor.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. We on YouTube tonight, so please come to YouTube. Come to the YouTube page. So let's talk about your high school years a little bit. When you started playing, did you go the whole freshman JV, then varsity route? How did you do going to Catholic school? Because it's a little bit different than public school.
Right. Well, St. Peter's not a very big school, and but it always had a rich tradition, starting with a guy, Jack McGinley, who stressed conditioning and defense, and he was a great basketball mind in his own right, helping out on the level of colleges and in high school. And so, but when I back in '79, when I was a freshman, I played on the freshman team. And the head coach then became Howie Rupert, who actually was Jack McGinley's assistant for a number of years. And so I played freshman, had a pretty good freshman campaign. We got knocked out in the playoffs by Zavarian. But I had a nice little season. And then the following year, there was an opportunity for me to play on the varsity. And I think that was the coach's idea all along, because I know he had been intimately keeping track of what we were doing as freshmen. and we had a young team, so we had a tough white point guard right from the inner part of the toughest part of the city. He grew up in the projects, and he knew how to handle himself. So he was really the spark plug that really made us a good team. You know, he could run the point, he could break your press. He wasn't scared of nobody, and we played a tough brand of basketball. So as a sophomore, I started on the varsity, and we had a nice season. We got knocked out by Mario Ellie and company at Powell Memorial in the playoffs my sophomore year, but it was a nice year. We scrimmaged Chris Mullen and them guys early. We always scrimmaged good teams. We always played Power. We always played Loughlin. We always played Cardinal Hayes. We always played. When we could, we always scrimmaged those teams. So that always kept us competitive. And then we just got better. Then the next year, those guys that were juniors were seniors, and my junior year, we had a nice year. We went undefeated for Staten Island, and then we got beat by Power again in the playoffs. And then my senior year was the magic year where we went all the way.
Yeah, but if you look at the amount of ball players you played against, I know there was some average guys back then, but who could say consistently through their years they played against pro basketball players? Like, you just didn't, play against some scrubs who just made it what it did. You played against some big names, DeMario Ellis, Chris Mullins, Tom Ledler, who else? Lionel Simmons, Kenny Smith. Like, who don't know those guys? And you caught them early on.
Right. Well, basketball in the early 80s, I mean, there was
Tim Legler, yes.
But I mean, just even in the summer leagues, you had Derek Tevis, you had Pearl Washington, you had Walter Berry. I mean, you had some ridiculously talented players that you could run into at any league at any time. Mark Jackson, and a lot of good players that you didn't even ever really know their names.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody can play. That's why I say I never got caught up in my press clippings, because, between playing in the Rucker League or playing in up at the Riverside courts and all that, there was a lot of good players.
Yeah.
Like too many to name.
Well, those people who never left Staten Island, they didn't know. You was just, you was the man to them.
Right. Well, just basketball at that time, was just a lot of guys could play. They could play, and if you told them you from Staten Island, they looked down at you too. Because Staten Island didn't get any respect.
It's still like that to this day. So I don't know. But the tide is
like
definitely
that,
changing. No, the tide is definitely changing because again, one of the strongest schools in the city was Susie E. Wagner this year. So I got to give it up to Susie E. Wagner, because their JV won the city championship, their varsity went to the Elite Eight, and the girls' varsity went to the city championship. And I don't think we ever had that happen before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that and I like to think that the 1983 team, put us a little bit on the map, because I know that after a while, they sort of made it mandatory that the Staten Island CYO teams play more of the city teams, so that there'd be a little bit more of a, less of a surprise, because they didn't see us until the playoffs, you know what I mean? Like, so, and they, we sort of came in stealth, under the radar, and nobody wanted to give us a chance. And, because they really didn't know, what we were all about until we finally, got to the finals, and then happened to win that too.
Listen, for those of you who don't know, please check out City Game, right? Which is on YouTube, all right? And it's documented by, and narrated by Kenny Smith, who lost to my guy. Okay, and he gives props to St. Peter's and that whole crew who they came up against, because not only is it legendary, right? That is the greatest win outside of football, right? Because let's give it up. Staten Island dominates in football on that side in the city, so we're gonna give it up to that, and baseball as well. But as far as basketball, St. Peter's, the greatest win in Staten Island history, and one of the greatest wins in New York City history, still to this day. And next year be 40 years.
Right, 40 years. Yeah, it's amazing.
That is amazing, man. That is amazing. So, let's think about the year you started to come into your own. What year was that? Was it like your junior year when you started to come into your own as a player?
Yeah, I would say that it's, in terms of feeling comfortable and really knowing my role and really seeing, the progress that I was making. I would say that, that would be the year that my identity was a little, was solid. Yeah, I knew what to expect, and I didn't feel much pressure. Really, my sophomore year was a dream year as well. I did well. I think when you come in as a sophomore, you just do what you're told, and you don't do much more. But when you're a junior and you kind of you're starting to feel your talent is kind of starting to rise. Sometimes there's those games where you might realize that you can step it up a little bit. So I would say more of those moments were happening as a junior. Just because of the experience.
Yeah, I can say the same for myself. My junior year was definitely my breakout year. So, and
Right.
unless you one of those super gifted players who just come in right off the jump, a la
Right.
Kenny Anderson, Pearl Washington, Derek Chivas, Lloyd Daniels. We go on for days. All those special players who kind of, hit the ground running their freshman and sophomore years. So
Right.
definitely, and kind of keeps us grounded too and level headed, because we like right in that middle space.
Yeah, you stay hungry, and hungry and humble.
Yes, because anybody can get it.
Yeah.
Okay, even though we hungry, anybody can get it. Don't make a difference what your name is. Okay,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
about your name. You gotta
Yeah.
bring your game.
Yeah. Hey, amen.
That's right. That's right. That's right. So let's talk about that summer leading up into your senior year, right? Into that magical moment when y'all guys won the city championship. And I know you talked about you working out and then coming to the city and competing. Did you come into the city a lot during your senior year, like privately, to make sure your steel was sharpened when you went back to
Yeah.
Allen?
Yeah. So I played with Madison's boys clubs. And so Doc Naselli. Yeah.
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 There you go. There you go. Hey, pal. Hey, listen. Hey, pal. Rest in peace to my guy, my mentor, Doc Naselli. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
the ultimate. Yes.
Yeah. Play with Doc, and so we, I got to compete, against some of the better players and play with some great players, and so that was my summer, and I played a lot of baseball still, but baseball was starting to lose it, because I realized I had a lot more work to do in basketball, and I played some good baseball at that time. I had some interest in some of the pro teams. Had a little tryout camp. They used to have area tryout camps. Not travel ball was more like the all-star team for your Babe Ruth leagues used to travel. And so I was out in Long Island. I had a really good all-star team that I played with, and I hit two long balls off the fence. I threw somebody out at second base. And there was a few Major League Baseball scouts that were there. It was the Cincinnati Reds, the Dodgers, the Phillies, and the California Angels at the time. So I had some pro baseball attention at that time, but my love for baseball was just starting to fade, and my love for basketball was going up. So playing for the Madison's Boys Club that year, starting to get some letters from colleges, go to 5-star basketball camp, Garth and Tom Kenchowski, spent a couple of weeks, trying to, get it on with some of the best players in the country over there. Got invited to the Nike's Athletes for Better Education. I don't know if you remember.
Yes, yep.
Walter Berry was there and all them guys. And that was a great little thing because, you went and you sort of went into a classroom setting and they talked a little bit about life and then you competed. You had some great guest speakers. I'm not sure. Was that at Concordia College? Not even sure where that was, but
they had it at different places. Yes,
right. And that was like the start of what then became, I think, where Nike invited the top 100 players.
Yeah,
but that was the early.
They moved it to Princeton. Then later on, they changed the name. And then they moved it to Fairleigh Dickinson. So yeah, they moved it around a little bit.
Right. So I was fortunate enough to get invited to that my junior year. So the junior year was very, very active with Rucker League, Madison's Boys Club, 5-star basketball camp. I think I went up to Syracuse, up to the Carrier Dome. They had a week up there that I did with Jim Boeheim. And so I played a lot of basketball. So that was the first summer that I actually played more basketball than I did baseball. And so that was great. And so I was on a personal level, I was ready my senior year. Now it was supposed to be a down year for us because we lost all of our seniors. And so I was really the only returning starter coming back for the senior year. So nobody really expected much from us as a team. And they expected, obviously for me to have a great year, but it was a humble beginning because we really had to find our identity, infuse young players who never really had, the center stage like that on the varsity level, and see what they could do. So it took a little bit of time for us to gel as a team.
Wow. Come over to YouTube, people. Come on to YouTube, all right? That's where we at tonight. So, shaking Tom Kenchowski's hand, right? He was the gentleman that I knew because I was told before, he's going to shake your hand very firm and please don't look away. Look him right in his eye because he's going to be looking right at you.
Right.
And he had these huge hands and he was tall himself.
Oh yeah, he seemed like he filled up the arena.
Yes. He knew everyone's name. He knew what year you was in. He knew what school you played for. And if he was in the stands checking you out, no disrespect to the Most High, but we talking about the basketball gods. It was just like if he wrote, we did something, he wrote in that little pad. It was like, please let him write my name. Please let him write my name. And him and Golf was like the gatekeepers, to the New York City basketball area. They held it down for the country. But if we didn't have those two guys right there, which helped out New York City basketball tremendously, who knows where we would be right now, like on a national level.
Yeah, well, that guy he should be in the Hall of Fame for seeing the most games ever. I used to see him everywhere.
Yes.
You could see him everywhere. I mean, it reminds me of the Matrix where, they have multiple copies of,
Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, you know what I'm saying? Like it had to be more than one Tom Kenchowski because how can he cover the game over here in Brooklyn?
And he didn't drive.
He didn't drive.
No, he didn't drive.
It's like he flew.
Rest in peace to the great Tom Kenchowski, legendary. Him and Golf. Wow. Yeah,
yes,
listen,
yes,
Tom Kenchowski helped change the course of my life.
He impacted a lot of players.
Yeah, definitely.
Good man.
Definitely. Yes. So, you guys played Power Memorial early on. in the year, scrimmaged them. What did that do to you, for
Right.
your confidence going into the season?
Well, I mean, that was the beauty. I mean, back then it was, back in the early 80s, you didn't compete with football. Basketball could start a little earlier. So our conditioning program started earlier. Howie Rupert was no joke when it came to, working out. I'm sure we worked out harder than any other team. And everybody knew that if you weren't in shape and if you couldn't play the kind of defense that he wanted you to play, you might as well don't even come out for the team. So,
Right.
we had Sunday mornings and run at Clove Lakes in this thing they used to call the Run for Fun, which is an oxymoron, but but those are the types of things that we did. And Glenn, when you pay the price, and when you know that you're doing certain things that other teams aren't doing, especially if we look at Staten Island as the other teams and the other players, and you can see what's going on in your programs is just a little bit more than what other teams are doing. That kind of gives you a little bit of an air, a little bit of a swag, at least on Staten Island. And then, we tried to take some of that confidence, and play against the tougher teams in the city. So it was a beautiful thing that we would go up and we would compete. I remember when we went up and we played against Alvin Lott and them guys, and we scrimmaged them, and then we ran suicides with them on their court, at their court, after we beat them in the scrimmage. Because their coach was mad. He made them run suicides afterwards, and we had to run alongside with him. So
your coach was a beast. That's being a beast as a coach. Like he was preparing you guys though to be winners. Like at the end of the day.
No doubt, no doubt. So we did those things. We paid the price. And practices were no joke. But they were very organized and they were very competitive. There was a lot of conditioning. And there was a lot of, you had to make your foul shots. If you didn't, you had to run, or we just had to run just because you wanted us to run. Whatever. We didn't know necessarily the method to the madness, but we used to practice so that we could press teams. And we had an effective press. But you needed to, we weren't the greatest athletes, but we were very, very conditioned to do what he wanted us to do on defense. So, and he really, really would work out game situations. Like I thought we had a lead, we knew how to keep a lead. We had to make the right decision at the end of the game. We practiced that stuff so well throughout the year that those are the things that came to fruition when we won the city championship, which we knew what we needed to do because we had already practiced it, and we never got caught up in who we were playing like that. I played on the college level. I actually had 4 different coaches, and out of all 4, I would say that they really couldn't stand up to the kind of preparation we had under Howie Rupert in high school, in terms of game preparation and developing an identity. And playing the team game, more so the team game. He was special. He really was. He taught me how to play a way that I haven't necessarily been able to duplicate ever again. With a group of guys.
Yeah, I had some special coaches as well, but definitely high school coach Bob Harstein outshined them all. So salute to your coach, man. Most definitely.
Yes, sir.
So,
yes. Yeah.
We want to talk about it right now because I know everybody waiting. Like, we ain't gonna talk about Kenny Smith and beating, Molloy and listen. That's another thing that we share in common, right? We both beat Molloy, right?
Yeah.
You beat
right.
Kenny Smith.
Yeah.
I beat the other Kenny.
Yeah.
And
right.
Man, oh man, just seeing him, on NBA TV, analyzing the games, the one thing I love about Kenny Smith is every time he has a chance to put New York City basketball in his rightful place, he does. And he's always
Right.
cheering for his guys back in New York City. So knowing that you guys are going to face Molloy and Kenny Smith, he's already signed to North Carolina. You know, they coming in with all the hype. What was you guys' mind state? And I know you're gonna say y'all, you wasn't looking forward to. You don't really read the papers and all that. But let's talk real deal basketball. Like, what was you guys thinking about leading up to that game? And let's go, who y'all beat to get to them, because it wasn't easy.
Well, Glenn, I mean, I'm being honest with you, man. I wasn't nervous at all. I slept good. I did my normal routine. I wasn't going around saying we're going to beat them. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't, cocky, but I wasn't nervous. I would say it was relatively neutral, because I do have a good memory of that time, and of that night. And I do have a pretty good idea of what it felt like in practice. Like, we weren't nervous or anything. It was normal practice. It was normal. And again, I give props to our coach, because he never did things differently throughout the year. You know what I mean? Like, practices were practices. What we need to do to execute what we do, he was always more worried about what we need to do to be the best we can be. And what's our game plan? And it didn't change ever for anybody. Nobody, not a player. He might just, talk in general, but, most of the preparation for the team players were like an hour before the game. You know what I mean? He would, go, we never watched film on another team. He would, say, oh, you got to watch out for number 14. They like to run this play, that. So we never got caught up in the hype of the other team. And so when we, on that special night when we're playing Molloy and Kenny Smith, we had already played them in December and we lost to them by 6 points. And we competed. So I think we had already known in our minds, as crazy as it seems, that we thought we could row it,
Hey,
and
why not?
And Dean Smith was impressed with our performance. He was at that game and came over to our van that night in December when we played them at Mount St. Michael's and said, fine game, fellas. And we were all falling out like, oh, it's Dean Smith, and so, we kind of, even though we lost, moral victories, right? But
they count.
Yeah, but they didn't walk all over us, and that was just another stepping stone that let us know that we were not a bad team.
Right.
You got to beat us. We're not going to come and you're just going to walk all over us.
Wow. Hold on. Let me send this. Somebody's like, can't find. Look, it says, because it was basketball heads, and after 2 years, we been doing the show 2 years, April 30th.
Oh, wow. Okay, April 30th. Happy anniversary.
Yeah. So, definitely. So we just want to try to rebrand this whole thing and try to build a basketball network, starting here at YouTube and the other platforms as well. So definitely.
Nice.
Yeah. It's been real special. Now, you scrimmage them, lose by 6, so you know what you're working with, right? You know what you're working with. And you also scrimmage against Power Memorial, right? So those two games.
We have played Loughlin earlier in the year also. I mean, those are the main two teams. I played against Mark Jackson once or twice every year from freshman year all the way to my senior year. So I had seen these guys already.
Right.
And like I said, I respected them as players. I mean, obviously everybody knew that they were, some of the top players in the city. But when you listen, Glenn, when you're in that competitive environment and you just love to compete, then there's nothing out of the box about that. You know what I
Right.
mean? If you love to compete, you love it even more to go against the better players. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't trying to play against guys that you're going to have an easy time with. That's not even as exciting. You know, it's much more exciting to go against a team that you know you're going to have your hands full, and you want to test yourself. You want to see how you can do it, and that was just a night of, you know, having that opportunity, you know. So, hey, you know, you don't know what we're gonna do. We don't even know what we're gonna do. I don't know. I don't even know what you're gonna do, you know. But let's get it on and let's see what we can do, you know.
But as the kids say today, y'all wanted that smoke. That's it. Y'all wanted all the smoke. Wherever it was at, y'all wanted it. You know?
Exactly.
That's what it is. You know,
Yeah.
New York City seeing the matchup. They're saying to themselves, yeah, Kenny Smith and them got this.
Yep.
You know? Oh, not even that. Let's go back because we talked prior and you said that the people of Staten Island didn't even believe until y'all guys got to the game.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, listen, there were more believers by time, obviously, right? Because you got to win games to get to the finals. So there were a lot more believers as we started making believers, you know, because, you know, you have to earn that one, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you don't get to the finals without doing some amazing things to get there, because nobody laid down. Listen, when you're 17, 18 years old, everybody's, you know, going for it. You know what I mean? And so even though they might have taken us lightly, you know, to start the game, once they were in the game, we were hanging with them. They're giving you their best shot. And you're talking about, you know, Mark Jackson, and you're talking about a lot of Division I players who could play the game. They're not gonna not show up, you know. So in order for us to get to the finals, we had to play. We actually had to get there. But, you know, we weren't satisfied with just getting there. We want to see if we can win the whole thing, you know. So that was really what that night was about. Let's let it all hang out. This is the last. This is it. You know, down to the last two teams, and so, you know, we were heavily the underdog. But that's that. Like we said last time, the game is played on the court, not in the newspaper. You know,
Not here, not right. Too bad. The game is played on the court, not in the newspapers, right?
Yeah,
you can have all of the hype in the world behind you and all the news broadcasters writing about you. You still got to play.
Absolutely.
Still got to play. When did you know things was clicking for you? When did you start to feel like, you know what? It's going to be one of those games, they're in trouble.
I think you know right away in the layup lines. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think you know based on how you feel. I mean, listen, anybody can have an off night. Even the best players have an off night.
Yeah.
You obviously don't know until you get into the flow of the game. But you know, when you feel that, you know, you're just getting loose and you're working on your routine, and you know, you start to feel, you know, that the competitive juices and the excitement and being in the moment. You're not worried about what's going to happen, and you're not worried about what happened yesterday, but you're in the moment.
Right.
That's a great place to start. You know what I'm saying? So I know, you know, I can only speak for me. That night felt just like a great night. I mean, what they do in the, you know, if you remember, right, they give out the awards for all Staten Island, all Brooklyn, all, you know, the all-stars from each borough. So they were giving out the awards for that. And, you know, so that felt good because I got an award. And then I'm shaking hands with some of the other guys. So that felt good. And then you're looking in the stands and you're seeing your sections all piling up. So that felt good. And you're at Fordham University, you know, and, you know, you're playing in front of a lot of people. That felt good. And so your competitive juices are going, and you know how you feel when you're doing your layups. Are you tight?
Well, they did that before the game? They did that before the game?
Before the game, yeah. Before the game.
That's like the ring ceremony almost.
Yeah, exactly. So there was like a ceremony before the game, and then you get your warm up on, and then you go into a college locker room, and the coach kind of outlines what the main things we need to do for the night, and then game time, and that's it. So I felt good and strong I came to compete, and that's it. So it wasn't like I had to do anything special. It just felt like I normally would feel, going to a big game, which I considered almost every game during the season like a playoff game. And that's the thing. If you're in the habit of preparing for a game and you really come to compete, it really isn't that much different. Whether it's really the finals or if it's the middle of the season. I mean, obviously, it's bigger because you're playing in a bigger venue. You're playing in a college arena, and the stakes seem higher, but it's really your perspective that you bring to the game.
Stakes is always high in those moments like that.
Yes,
As
sir.
De La Soul would say, stakes is high. That game was high for sure.
Right.
So, that game will be a moment that will change your life forever. And of course your teammates' lives.
No doubt, no doubt. First of all, we're bonded forever in that moment. So you got those guys, you never forget each other. That super high emotional. It's almost on a spiritual level.
Yeah.
And then to have people still remember something like that 40 years later and have that record still stand is really, really special, because people still like to talk about it. And who doesn't want to be remembered for, something that you did years ago? And then because we are sort of like the Cinderella team that, just shocked the world, so to speak, you realize that you can apply that to life in a lot of life situations where the chips might look down and you're like, wait a minute. I remember when the chips were down on the basketball court and we rose to the top and we won the whole thing. And so that whole mindset comes into play in your life, So yeah, I mean, basketball has done amazing things for me, no doubt. I mean, it's a great love affair that I have with it, and me and basketball, we have some of the sweetest moments that anybody could ever ask for.
And you still a basketball lifer to this
Yeah.
day. When most guys have gave it up, you still doing your thing out there on the court. So it changes lives, man. And those moments you'll never forget, because not too many people in New York City can say they won a city championship, right? And no one on Staten Island can say they won a basketball city championship.
Yeah.
Besides you guys, man. So that's
like 15 guys out of all the players. Yes, sir.
Look, and when I go out there to the games, I remind them, like, come on, you guys, and I'm rooting for them no matter what, because I like to root for the underdog, and I want to see another Staten Island team win the city championship. It's only right.
Yeah, and I think there will be. I mean, I know some guys have said it'll never be done again, but I mean, listen, a lot of things have to go right for it to happen, but that's true for any team.
Yeah.
But we don't have the corner market on championships, obviously, and some records are meant to be broken.
That's right.
And I hope it's somebody that knows the history and can appreciate that they're doing something that's special when it happens.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up. I'm gonna go back a little bit because you talked about Doc Naselli, who was my AAU coach as well. And it's so crazy. When I was interviewing Ross Strickland, he was talking about the guys on my team when I was a freshman in '83: Carlton, Silk Owens, and Spice Gilpatrick.
Yeah. Oh man, he was nice.
Yeah. So those are my OGs, and still talk to them to this day. We're supposed to be getting up this summer doing a little reunion. But he was just saying how they came up to Mitchell houses from Brooklyn and did their thing. And everybody was talking about Spice and Silk. They were just like, those two guys from Brooklyn. And he said, but they never came back. So my coach was the one that told him, you're not playing for the Gauchos. Not doing that. you guys are going to play for Dr. Naselli. And he would
Yeah.
kind of tell all of us that. And I enjoyed it. You know, Doc was real. He didn't care who you were. You was going to come to practice and play. He didn't have that open door policy where if you came from another AAU team, you could just come in on our AAU team and take our spot and replace us. If you came to practice and you earned your position, you kept it.
Yeah.
And it was fair.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the money either. Yeah.
No. I loved him. You know, I loved him. He was straight up guy. It was no games. You know, just you know, it was what he was.
Everybody always talk about the Gauchos in Riverside. So any chance I get to plug our guy, Dr. Naselli, may he rest in peace, I'm going to do that every time.
Yeah.
So there should be a documentary done about those three programs, even though I know the more famous players play for the Gaucho and Riverside.
Right.
You can't take away the things that Dr. Naselli did for New York City.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you knew my guy Silk? Carlton Owens?
Yeah. We crossed. I mean, we crossed a little bit. I played with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Silk and Mouse, right?
Oh yeah, I had Mouse on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mouse McFadden, the stories he was telling. Oh man, I just couldn't believe it. You know, did you know when his high school coach at Sewell Park told him he couldn't play tournament basketball anymore? He quit his high school team. He's like, "What do you mean I can't play tournament ball no more?" He didn't know. He was like, "Yo, I didn't know, Glenn. I didn't know."
Mm-hmm.
So, go figure, man. Go figure. Salute to my guy, Mouse. Now, I know the letters started coming in after you guys won.
Yeah, but by then it was too late, you know, because there had been, you know, a number of schools that, you know, nobody really majored early on, you know, because Staten Island, nobody really came to Staten Island, you know. The coaches really didn't come to Staten Island. So some of my attention came from like 5-star, but, you know, I wasn't really a big name when I went to 5-star. So, you know, I had schools like Lehigh and schools like UPenn was very interested. Davidson, very, very interested early on, right? Fordham was in there early on. So those are the schools that really showed you know, the biggest interest consistently. You know, I mean, you would get personal letters from the coaches. I mean, handwritten letters from the coaches. I had good grades, and so you know, they really were committed because they, you know, obviously if you can play and you have good grades, that actually gave you a little bit of edge. North Carolina actually was in there a little bit because one of my family members knew Sam Perkins.
Really?
But they were very committed to Kenny Smith at that time, you know, for the guard position. So and then Michigan State was there early. So about time you know, came to, even though I hadn't signed, I was more loyal to the schools that had been there early, you know.
So you knew where you was going prior to the city championship.
I didn't exactly know, but I knew I had a relationship with those coaches more so. And, you know, I knew obviously when you get to playing the city championship, there's more coaches and more scouts there. And I started to get some letters then. I actually took my recruiting trip to go to Michigan State the very next day after we won the city championship. So I actually got on a plane with Mike Dean, who was the assistant coach at Michigan State at that time, and took my weekend trip there. So I was, you know, more than 1 foot in the door going to Michigan State, even before we won the city championship.
And you know how they get you. They bring you down there when there's a lot going on campus. So when you go down there, you think it's like that every day. And it's like, wow, this is awesome.
Exactly.
You know? Did you visit any place else besides Michigan State?
Yeah, so my first visit, I actually went to Lehigh. That was before the season. I had a nice time there. They had a nice program. I went and took an unofficial visit to Cornell. I went up to Cornell. I took an unofficial visit to the University of Penn. My dad thought that they had a real strong business program, so if I could get into Wharton School, but I thought that I really wanted to try a big time program. I thought that was a little bit of a stretch for me. I mean, I was a good player, but I really didn't know if I was, really, a major Division I player or if I was more mid-level. But I had to give it a try. I had to give it a try. Because I was progressing as a player more and more, each year. So, I thought that I wanted to go to a big school and see what I can do. So at that time, Michigan State early on was the biggest of all of them, and the Big Ten. So I had the opportunity. I had to take it.
Yeah, and then a couple of years prior, they won a national championship. Magic's going to LA. Then he was in, NBA championship. Just the whole aura of Michigan State. And again, I mentioned before, Kenny Page go to the Big Ten. What's like the next Jaques Award winner, and best player on Staten Island to do the same thing. So
right.
Yeah. So what was it about Michigan State out of all the other schools that made you want to sign?
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the schedule, knowing you're gonna be playing on TV. I knew they had a couple of trips, planned to be in New York City where my family could see me play. Just looking at the players that had come through there already. When you go and you see the trophies and the sort of Hall of Fame that they have set up, outside the athletic office. Just everything about it just seems more big time. We're gonna travel. Now I'm not putting down the other schools, but like Lehigh didn't have that, and Fordham didn't have that. And I liked the coach. I liked Tom, Mike Dean. Actually, Tom Izzo was there also at the time. He's been there forever. But that was his year. Was his freshman year.
Wow.
His rookie coach. He at that time he was the lowest guy on the totem pole. But Mike Dean really, was a straight up guy, and I wish he had been the head coach because I think I would have excelled under him. Judd Heathcote was a different personality, and a lot different than I hadn't really done my homework on his coaching style. I based it mostly on just the opportunity to play in the Big Ten.
Yeah, outside of like Magic Johnson and a few other players, I just always thought the Big Ten was like a robot league. You know what I mean? It was just like, big, strong, and pass, look to score. And it wasn't like the ACC where you had a little bit more flair, right? I just thought it was just a little bit more robotic, back then especially,
Yeah. He changed his style a little bit after when I transferred. They started doing more of a three-man weave at the top, because they weren't being successful. I mean, when I was there, they underachieved with some really good players. We had Kevin Willis, we had Scott Skiles, we had Vincent. We had a couple of good pros. We were ranked 12th in the country, but we had a disappointing year when I was a freshman. And so he did change up his playing style, after I left, and we're a lot more free in terms of letting guys, do what they do. I don't know if people remember, but Michigan State was up for a lot of violations before Judd Heathcote was there under Coach Gus Kanakis. So they brought Judd Heathcote there as a no-nonsense guy who could help clean up the program. And he wasn't the most popular coach with the players, believe it or not. He had a very
So I heard, yep.
Right. And so that kind of rubbed a lot of guys, the wrong way because he was so strict and he was so, tough on guys a little bit. But you know, not a bad person, but I mean, his coaching style and his personality sometimes, you know, rub players a different way. But I mean, when you have a guy like Irvin Johnson coming down 6'9", you know, running the fast break and putting a little bit of, you know, style and grace on the whole thing, he really made Judd Heathcote look really, 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 really good. You know,
Yes.
so,
Yes.
but when he left, Judd wasn't as successful until he started loosening up a little bit and letting them do a 3-man weave. They had, you know, some players who could really, you know, handle the ball and do that 3-man weave, you know, including Scott Skiles. And they started to be more successful, you know, after I transferred to Fordham.
Yeah, I think Steve Smith went there as well, right?
Yeah, Steve Smith. They had the guy, Vernon Carr, who was a good player for them. Scott Skiles, and you know, a bunch, and then they just started recruiting who could play, you know, the point guard spot, and you know, play that, you know, play the way that they wanted to have that 3-man weave, you know, with 3 guards, you know, at the top. So they like that 6'5", 6'6", you know, point guard type at that time.
Yeah, I noticed that. What were the transitions you had to make at Michigan State coming from New York City? But you know, off and off the court.
But I mean, I think you know, for me, you know, I did well in terms of being away from home. Like I wasn't homesick or anything like that. But I think that for me, I had to really work on, you know, did I belong there? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, even though I had a lot of success in high school, but my success came within a system of play.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I wasn't really a playground guy. I mean, I played in, you know, a lot of the All-Star games. You know, after that, I got voted on the All-Star games. But I always tended to be the guy who was setting a screen or throwing a bounce pass to somebody, you know, because I really didn't have that one-on-one type of game at that time. You know, I had to work on that. You know, I was used to coming off screens. I was used to being like more like a Klay Thompson type, you know, coming off a screen, catch and shoot, you know, and not really put the ball on the floor that much. So that was a big transition for me. And, you know, the first week that we were there, we were scrimmaging with a lot of the pros because, you know, the pros back then used to take the summer off and then try to get back into shape. Playing with Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thompson. I was guarding Isaiah Thompson the first week that I was there, you know, Isaiah. He wasn't the, you know, mid-season Isaiah Thomas at that time, thank God. But, you know, so he was just trying to get his legs back, you know, so he wasn't doing anything flashy. We were playing Greg Kelser, Jay Vincent, you know, these guys that were in the NBA. So I'm up here on the court with playing against pros, and I'm like, you know, still trying to figure out like, how did I get here? You know, so I really had to work on my confidence as a basketball player as a freshman. But it was a great experience, you know. I mean, I didn't play that much, but then by the time I got to my sophomore year, I was averaging about 7 to 8 minutes a game, which I thought was pretty decent, you know, playing behind Sam Vincent and Scott Skiles, both who were first-round draft picks, you know, in the NBA to follow.
Not bad company to come behind.
Trust me. But I didn't see that getting much better though, because you know I could see how they were recruiting. B.J. Armstrong was coming in one weekend, and then you know this other, you know, top recruit in the country. Every week was a new recruit coming in who could really play, and I never felt that Judd Heathcote was really had a future. He never, you know, sat me down and say, you know what, you're going to be a junior next year. I'm looking for you to, you know, get better here or plug you in this spot. I never really got a good pulse for the future with him. So an opportunity came up, you know, for me to transfer to Fordham. And I loved their non-conference schedule. They were playing Seton Hall and Notre Dame in North Carolina. We were going to Hawaii. Tom Penders was the coach at the time. They were competitive in the MAC. They were playing in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference at the time. Lionel Simmons was playing for LaSalle. Tim Lakeler was playing for LaSalle at the time. So I didn't really feel like I was giving up that much. And I was able to come in, play right away. Well, I had the red shirt, but I mean, I knew I was going to have an opportunity to play a lot more and be in New York City again. But yeah, it's really confidence. You really gotta, come in and feel like you belong.
Basketball is all about confidence. And speaking of Tom Penders, he's a great coach for guards. I think he was Silk's coach at Rhode Island.
Yes,
Uh,
he went to Rhode Island. So the year that I redshirted, he was still at Fordham, but the year I became eligible to play, which would have been 1985, was his first year at Rhode Island. Right, and he was Silk's coach. Yeah, exactly.
Listen, this is why Silk is still the leading scorer and the leader in assists. I think he's second in assists at Rhode Island. No, I think he's first in assists and scoring at Rhode Island.
Right. Yeah. I missed out. I mean, I didn't get a chance to play for him. I mean, I played for him in practice. My redshirted, year before my junior year in college.
Right.
But yeah, he was tough. He was a tough guy too. But he was a basketball, mind also. He taught the game. Yeah.
And you was home, right? You start to come home. You start to, be back in the city. Have people come see you play, and feel like you're wanted. Because that's all. Again, that helps with your confidence, knowing that.
Oh yeah, and that redshirt year.
There.
That redshirt year is a beautiful year. You get your grades, you get acclimated. You still can practice. You're still on the meal plan. It's a great year, and then you get stronger without losing a year of eligibility, and you get to kind of see how the programs run. Again, Tom Penders didn't stay on, so I had to sort of make another adjustment with a new coach. But that was a great year. We played Clemson in Hawaii when they had Horace Grant and Eldon Campbell. And we lost to them. Glenn, we had them. It was a upset alert. It was another St. Peter's versus Molloy type of game.
Okay.
At 22 points, and we had them. It was tied. They beat us by 4 points in Hawaii. We had a few nice things that year. We played against Wichita State in their tournament, and we won the Shaka Shootout in front of their fans. Early on, we were like 5-0, and it got off to a good start. I had a pretty good junior year. I made a second team All Metro.
Yeah.
And so that was a nice year for me.
Listen, you've been playing against NBA players your whole career. And not only just playing against them and doing well, right? So it's just a good thing to know, just saying to yourself, what if? People say, what if? And you like, well, I know what the if is because I was playing with these guys. And again, everybody don't get a chance to go pro. And then a lot of people don't get a chance to play against these great players. You can go your whole career playing against, mediocre and average players your whole career. And people brag like you did all these great things, and which still counts.
Right.
Which still counts, because I'm not trying to knock what anybody has done in their career. But to say every step of the way, you've played against a significant NBA player, which you can say the name that people know and don't really have to go, let me Google him real quick, especially if you're from our era. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
exactly.
Walk me through that MVP game and that Wichita State shootout.
Well, yeah, that I mean, today everybody would have known about that game because it was a crazy, wacky, one of them wacky endings that would have been a great story on ESPN today. So we got invited probably as one of the weaker teams because really, if you're having your own tournament, you're supposed to win your own tournament, right? So Wichita State, at that time, if you remember, the NCAA March Madness only had 32 teams.
Yeah.
They had just started, going to 64 teams. So you didn't have all these schools trying to play the best schools all year round for the power rating like they do now. So back then, the teams used to like to put a few easy games in there so that they could, get a 20-win season. So I'm sure Wichita State had invited Fordham and thinking that Fordham was going to be one of those easy wins. So we wound up winning the first game against, I think, South Florida or somebody, somebody that I think was even keel with us. And we get into the final game now with Wichita State, and I actually hit. Remember the 3/4 court shot I told you I hit when I was in 6th grade?
Yeah.
When there was more than a minute on the clock. Well, this
Right.
time was really running out, and I hit a 3/4 court buzzer beater to tie the game.
Wow.
So now we go into. So that would have been a great ESPN clip right there.
That's right. That's right.
So now we go into the overtime. They had Gus. Do you remember Gus Santos? I don't know if you remember Gus Santos. Yeah, about 6'8", 6'9". I knew he played for Wichita State. So anyway, we're in the overtime and we outplayed them in the overtime. So now we're up by 8 points and the clock is running out. 5, 4, 3. They have the ball and we're supposed to, win the game because we're up by 8 points with hardly any time on the clock. And as they shoot a 3-point shot, because we're up by 8, they make the 3-point shot and the buzzer's supposed to go off, right? But the buzzer doesn't go off because our guys threw the water jug on our coach's head like they used to do with Bill Parcells. Remember with the Giants?
Yeah.
All the ice in the water goes on the court and the referees blow a tech on our bench. So now not only do they make the 3-pointer to cut the lead to 5, well, now there's still 1 second on the clock and they get to shoot 2 technical foul shots and they make it. So now we're only up 3. They dry off the court. They take the ice off the court and they throw an inbound pass to Gus Santos at the top of the key. And he takes the shot and he makes it. And the referee.
Hold on. He Christian Leighton, you guys?
Yes, absolutely. With 1 second left. But the referees wave the shot off and say, no good. Now we're in front of 13,000 or however many, it's sold out. And we're in front of all the Wichita State fans and they're mad at the refs and they're booing us and they're throwing soda cans and cups at us and
Whoa.
stuff. We had to be escorted out the gym because the fans were, upset at the call that it was no good, So yeah, it was a great. Go ahead.
Somebody has to have a tape of that game somewhere. Have to be a tape of that game somewhere.
One of the craziest games I've ever seen, where you're up by 8 points and we almost lost an 8-point lead with 5 seconds left to go.
You can't make that up. Oh man, that's amazing, yo.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
And you went 8 for 11 for 3-point range. So.
Yeah. Well,
no, that clicking.
Against LaSalle, that was a different game, but yeah. That was
okay, LaSalle. Okay. Got you. Wow, that's crazy, man. So let's talk about this now. You finish up your basketball career.
Mm-hmm.
Do you stay in school or what happened with your rediscovery after basketball? How did you rediscover yourself?
Well, it's an interesting thing, right? When you play your last game and it's over, or you realize it's over. It's not a good feeling because you've been playing basketball your whole life and you've been playing. Fortunately, I had 5 years to play 4 years of basketball eligibility, and when the last game happens, in our last game, we made it to the NIT and we lost. I can't even remember who we lost to. I think, there you go. Because we lost, I think, to Houston. I think we played Houston, and it wasn't a very good game, and so it ended on a tough note. And it's over, So what are you gonna do? And I know for me, I wouldn't say I was burnt out, but I mean, my college career had taken a lot of different turns with different coaches and 2 different schools. My senior year, I had a little bit of a shooting slump with a new coach. Coach McCarthy came from Canisius, had a whole different system. Really really had some adjustments to make under him. And I have this really great, game against LaSalle, but that's really the only real highlight that I can think of in my, my senior year. So I'm thinking if I can get into dental school, I did a crazy thing, Glenn. I applied to dental school the spring of the same year that I wanted to get into, where usually you do that a year ahead of time. So it's, powers that be, God, somebody was smiling on me, but certain doors opened up where I got a good interview. It went really, really well. My interviewer loved Big Ten basketball. So at the interview, we wound up talking more basketball than we did academics.
Right.
And I know, had some very, very strong recommendations, one of which somebody was doing research at Temple. And so I'm sure that helped. And so, the door opened up, I got in, and then I decided to leave, basketball, to pursue a professional career in dentistry. And it worked out. But if it hadn't worked out, I probably would have tried to play overseas, and try to pursue, some opportunities, that way.
Cool. So let's just go back to your parents real quick and the impact they had on you in shaping your life outside of basketball.
Well, yeah, my mother would probably be the most influential in terms of me going into healthcare, because she was a registered nurse. And I remember, her sweating it out a little bit when I was little. I mean, I didn't know she was sweating it out, but I'm sure she was, having a kid while she went through her nursing program. So she went to the College of Staten Island, had a nursing program. And I remember the day that I went, they were dissecting the eyeball, and my mother was a little squeamish. So I think she brought me in so that the instructors could see that she's really busy. And I don't think she dissected the eyeball, but I remember being very interested in what they were doing, in that class. And I remember looking through her textbooks and looking at all the different, things in biology and all the different things that go on in the medical field.
Right.
So that was pretty cool to be exposed to that, because I think that I realized then that I was interested in science and biology. So, and those were always the classes that interested in me in school. And so I always tended to do well in that. So, so I have to say, and then my mother was the one who, her friend was a friend of a dentist. So anytime I went to Pennsylvania and she went to visit her friend, I went to play with this dentist's son, who actually wound up going to Temple a year ahead of me. Wow. And so that I wound up going to Temple University and going to dental school in Pennsylvania.
Salute.
Yeah.
So if you could change anything, what would it have been? If you could change anything?
I have no regrets. I mean, I wish that the only thing I would say is, when I look back on my freshman year, I wish I went with a little more confidence, because I think, maybe things would have been a little bit different that first year, because I think I would have probably done a little bit more to pick other people's brains on what is it like to be in the Big Ten? What is it like to play for Coach Heathcote? What would you do? What would your advice be to me as a freshman? What would I need to do? Or maybe even talk to the coach himself and say, what do I need to be? How can I be successful under your program? I believe that you got to open up your mouth. And if you are nervous or you do have a confidence issue, the only way to get around that is to deal with it straight on, So that would be just, when I look back that I approached, as a basketball player, I don't think I approached my freshman year in that kind of way, or I didn't put myself in a position mentally and emotionally to succeed that first year. But I came back and made, but I almost feel like I wasted that freshman year by not approaching it that way, So, but you're asking a lot for an 18-year-old to do that on their own. But
yeah.
But other than that, I have no regrets. I transferred at the right time. I got to play for two good programs. I got a scholarship. I didn't have to pay for school. I got my education paid for. I got my my degree, and then I got to go to professional school and become a dentist and meet great people. And you know, it's been a great life. So I don't have any regrets. I really don't.
That's awesome. Well, don't feel bad, man. I always say us New York guys don't belong in the Big Ten. No disrespect to the Big Ten. We from New York City. It just don't work out too well for us. And
Right.
it's not just for you. It's for a lot of other players from New York City that tested out the Big Ten. So,
Right.
but look, your life, you lived a legendary life with or without
Oh
the
yeah.
Big Ten. So, salute to you, brother.
Uh,
So we're
Yeah.
gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna do our top five, top five, top five, top five, top five. All right.
Let's
Hopefully
go.
it doesn't get you in trouble, brother. So we're gonna start with top five players from St. Peter's High School.
Woo, top five players. Well, you got to give it to John Engels, who went to UPenn, and I learned a lot more about him in the last couple of years. That he would have probably made it to the NBA, but he had a career-ending knee injury that he never could really come back from. So he had a great career at University of Penn, and he's a good guy. So he's number one. I have to give John Tobin a nod just because I know a lot about him. He's a good guy. He was my freshman coach. I missed out a little bit because he moved to Arizona, by my sophomore year. I would have to give it to oh boy, I'm forgetting his name, but he's after me. He went to Rhode Island. Hassan Martin.
Hassan Martin. Hold on. He didn't go to St. Peter's, did he? He went to. We talking about St. Peter's players.
Yes. Yeah. No. So, Martin though. There's which is one went to Curtis. The younger one went to Curtis, and his brother, the older one. What's his first name?
Kareem Martin.
Is it Kareem? He went to Rhode Island first.
No. I think it's Hassan. I think Hassan went to Rhode Island. Did he go to St. Peter's?
Yeah, he went to St. Peter's. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I know one of the Martin brothers didn't go to Curtis.
Right. Yeah. Now I'm talking about the one who went to St. Peter's.
Got you. Oh, okay. You're right about that. Yep.
Yeah. Then you got a guy, Russell Clark. I mean, I'm not a great historian because back when I was a kid,
you're on point so far. You're on point. Go ahead.
Russell Clark, and let's see, there's probably a bunch of other guys. I have to give it to Timmy Malson because he was my teammate and he was really responsible for giving us an identity as tough players who can come in. You can press us if you want to. You can try to rattle us if you want to. But I mean, he had a lot of that inner city toughness, because that's where he grew up. He since went on into I think he went to the Army and he won all these. He and his brothers won all these, purple medals and all the hand-to-hand combat type stuff. So these were tough. Right. These were no pushovers. They can take care of themselves. So, so I thought that would be my top five.
Okay.
Russell
Top
Clark.
Top five players you played against.
In total.
Yes.
Kenny Smith, got to give it to Kenny and Mark Jackson, because I played against them all the time. Chris Mullen, Magic Johnson, even though it was a scrimmage.
He's on the top. If you played against him anywhere, pick up 21, whatever, horse, whatever.
Yeah. Right. And then Isaiah Thomas, I literally, tried to guard him, So yeah.
All right, last one. Top five players in New York City history.
Ooh. New York City history. Well, you got to put Kenny Smith and I'm sorry, Kenny Anderson.
Okay. Yep.
Because he came out smoking as a threat all 4 years. I mean, and he was nice. So that's one for sure. And then I have to give it to Walter Berry, because I seen Walter Berry just ferocious, dunking on people with bad intentions, Walter Berry was serious. Oh man.
The truth.
Yep. And then I got to give it to Pearl Washington.
Oh yes.
They great.
Yes.
And boy, there's too many guys.
I know. This is why it's only called the top 5.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to give it to Kenny. I mean, because Kenny, for what he was doing.
Kenny Smith. We're talking about Kenny Smith right now.
Yeah, yes. I mean, doing and what he went on to do afterwards.
Yeah.
He won on every level except he didn't get it against us in '83. So because he lost to it. And last one, man, so many. During my era, I'm gonna say I was a big Mark Jackson fan. I know last year, but I felt like he, for a guy with that much, never turned the ball over. You couldn't beat him, man. If he had a 4-point lead, it was like an 8-point lead. And I always respected his game and him as a player. He played so well for St. John's, and then he had a dream career as well. When you look at what he was able to do at the Pacers and what he was able to do with the Knicks, he wasn't fast. He wasn't
really
a great athlete.
He was right. He didn't have that classic jump shot, but it worked when he shot it.
Yeah, I mean, for a guy, I played against him every year, and he wasn't, year after at least his freshman and sophomore year, he wasn't the best player on the team, but he could run a team. He could run a team, get the most out of it. He made everybody better. So, and that's the kind of player that I always really like. So I'm gonna throw Mark Jackson in there.
That's awesome, bro. That's awesome, man. And shout out to Kenny Anderson, who just caught one of our hoodies. Thank you, Chips. Appreciate you, brother. Posted on Instagram. I think I posted it yesterday. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate the support. Well, listen, brother, I'm glad we was able to get through this. Man, listen, I want to definitely keep the lines open. Maybe I, come out and swing some golf with you one day. Don't do me dirty. Just accept that,
Come out to the basketball court.
I'll come and watch. How about that? Now I can still shoot. And listen, I'm in relatively good shape. It's just that I don't trust my knees.
Yeah, well, everybody feels that way.
Where you guys are playing at these days?
I'm playing at at this place that it's owned by Central Jersey Boys. They're an outfit that does basketball instruction. Boys and girls. They have a lot of area basketball games. They were like an open site during COVID towards the end of last year, where they had some high school playoff games there. But fortunately, nobody uses the gym between 5 and 7 in the morning. So we actually let ourselves in, and we pay like $10 a month, to be able to have the privilege to play there. And then we have some pretty good games.
My brother lives in Sandville. How far are you from there?
Sandville's about 10, 15 minutes away.
My brother lives out there, so maybe one day I'll catch up with you out there.
Hit me up, man. If you don't mind just getting up a little early and just playing a little ball, man. It's fun. It's a good mix of guys, and it's more the matchups than it is anything else.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, man.
I appreciate you too. It's fun doing the show, and maybe we'll do it again.
Oh, definitely will. All right, brother. I appreciate you, and thank you for everything you did for Staten Island and New York City, and just as a person in general, right? Being a stand-up guy and a classy gentleman, man. I appreciate you, brother. Salute.
Hey, thank you so much, Glenn. I appreciate it. And it's been an honor. I've had a lot of doors open up, and and I've just been blessed. So I appreciate everything. I really do.
We appreciate you, brother.
Right. You take care, though.
All right, salute.
Back at you.
All right. Wow. See how life works? A lot of times when we're looking at New York City great basketball players, sometimes we forget that we have another borough out there. It's 5 boroughs. And what Greg Pedro did for Staten Island will never be matched. Hopefully one day. But as of today, I don't think anyone could say that there can be another St. Peter's that will shock another great team like that. And for his individual accomplishments, you got to salute, because even through his trials and tribulations in college, he didn't quit. He didn't sulk. He didn't hold his head down. He kept it marching and still got to accomplish the things he wanted to do with having a free education. See, a lot of us sit back and we start pointing fingers at people, and then we realize we wasted a lot of years pointing fingers instead of moving on and accomplishing the things that we have to accomplish in life. So, how many people could say that all-city player who played against a whole bunch of pros, put in a whole bunch of work, and end up being world-class dinners? And still putting up buckets to this day. So don't sleep on my guy. He'll give you 50. All right, now, we're about to be out of here. I just want to say thanks to my guest, Greg Pedro, New York City great, Staten Island legend. And all my basketball heads out there. Y'all keep supporting the channel. Hit that subscribe button. You know, give us a like or two. Put something in the comments. Good or bad. Still love what we do. By the way, you've been watching Basketball Heads Live on the New York City Basketball Network. I am your host, Glenn Pooh Harding. And we are the official home for New York City basketball. Peace.